So you've probably been seeing it all over the place. You've been seeing it in person, social media, in the news. Restaurants are closing left and right. There's a lot of factors that's hitting the hospitality industry really hard. And whether you're looking at the rising cost of the food, the rising cost of rent, labor increases, or whatever it is, it's hard to own a restaurant right now. And that's why so many are just having to close their doors, call it a day, and salvage what they can because they no longer have viable businesses in this market. Just this year, national chains like Red Lobster had to file bankruptcy, and here in Nashville, where I'm from, many local groups have had to shutter their doors. Just recently, restaurants like PDK Kitchen closed all their locations just suddenly without warning, and some of which were just longtime staples in the community. You can go down the list on and just look at how many staples in Nashville that's been here 30, 40, 50 years that have now had to close their doors because they can't compete. In cities like Nashville have maybe some different variables here compared to where there are smaller towns like where I'm originally from, like Evansville. Here in Nashville, you have major developers coming in, major restaurant groups coming in that's kind of eating up and also contributing to these rising costs. But across the board, across this country, their restaurants are struggling. They cannot keep up. So the question here is, where does the hospitality industry go from here? How do those in the industry attempt to really pivot and stay afloat? Rising inflation with rising food costs, rising rent, rising labor are most likely not going to decrease at any point in time. I don't care what political party you're a part of, I don't care what political candidate you are, combating inflation and creating this, trying to cut down on this issue that is existing for restaurants and the hospitality industry is not going to just magically happen overnight. So at some point in time, you're going to be seeing a pivot. And in fact, that pivot's actually already happening. Because if the theory of brick and mortar restaurants are fading into the sunset, what's one way that the industry can stay afloat while reducing costs and focusing on your product and brands? The answer is food trucks.
That'll be $16.
And you need to hear me out on this. The food truck industry has grown at 18.4% on average between 2018 and 2023. In 2023, there were 52,624 registered food trucks according to IBIS World. Some are projecting the mobile food truck industry to grow from 3.1 billion in 2024 to 11.3 billion by 2032. The average rent for a brick and mortar restaurant in the United States is roughly $6,000 a month. That's going to ebb and flow depending on your location. As previously mentioned, I live in Nashville currently, but I grew up in a smaller city in Indiana called Evansville, and rent between those two cities are going to be drastically different. Nashville's going to be much on the higher end, Evansville's going to be much more on the average end of this. But with that being said, interest rates are also skyrocketing, and we've all seen that. We've seen it on our mortgages, and that's not any different for anybody in the commercial industry, especially in the hospitality industry. Rates are going to be a killer as well. All of this is combining to drive up the cost of financing brick and mortar restaurants. Oftentimes, these are actually becoming money pits. You're spending money in spaces that you don't own. Now, yes, caveat, I am an accountant, and I understand that there are tax benefits that come to like leasehold improvements, but it's not the same saying like you own a mortgage and you are purchasing your house every month by contributing to your mortgage. So when you're investing in these spaces, you're improving spaces for which your restaurant might, and there is better chance than not, fail for another restaurant to come in. And in what I'm seeing here in Nashville is local restaurants closing, having these restaurants built out in rental spaces that they don't own, and then large developers with their larger brands are coming in, swooping in, not having to invest as much in the leasehold space because they were already prepped for a restaurant, they were already clean, they were already built out. So in terms, all they got to do is go in and brand it, make it fit to what their restaurant customizations are. So all this to be said, this is pointing towards the trend of what is both more cost effective and provides you more flexibility that owning a food truck can give you. One company I follow closely is AeroBuild. AeroBuild is a mobile business trailer manufacturer here in Nashville. It's actually a really cool company, and I encourage you to go check it out. But you can build out a trailer for less than $40,000. Now, if you start upgrading it, and depending on the package you get, obviously that $40,000 is going to increase to a much higher number. But you can get it for underneath $40,000 as kind of the standard, like default level package. The mobile coffee industry's really flocked to this company, but they're starting to expand into some different markets as well. Just recently, they built out a trailer for a small sized donut company that is going to use it for their operations. So the company's expanding itself because they see the rise in food trucks and food trailers and understand that they are beating to market just the standard van food truck that we see. They're giving people a different and much more clean looking, kind of unique branding experience that the company can give you. So they see it, and that's why companies are starting to flock to them. They're popping out companies left and right with their customer base here. And really, like depending on the type of business that you're looking to own from a food truck and you're looking to open, you could price it anywhere between 50,000 and 200,000. Obviously, the more complicated your business is, the higher it's going to be more in that higher end. It could even be more than that, realistically, depending on the type of equipment you purchase. All this is just really dependent on what you're opening and what level of products that you're trying to create and what level of equipment that you are purchasing. Your location is also going to cause a variance depending on permits, licensing, legal work. To be truthful here, opening a food truck is not easy in every single city in this country. As we've seen with things like parking mandates, things can get very finicky with each local government. So I encourage you, before you even consider this, to do your research on your local area to get a better understanding of, number one, what's your permit cost going to be? Number two, what's it going to really cost to run this from a not just logistical but a legal standpoint as well, because it is going to cause a variance on what the startup capital is going to cost you. But regardless, if you want to bootstrap it with the bare minimum, you absolutely can. And for comparison, the average cost of opening a brick and mortar restaurant in this day and age is going to run you anywhere between $150K, that is very generous, all the way up to $1 million. And that, again, is going to, it's so different because it's going to depend on what type of restaurant you're running, what level of build out you need. Are you building it from literally the studs? Are you opening a fine dining steakhouse, or are you opening a local taco joint? A lot of differences that go into the different costs of a brick and mortar, but just to go show you how much more cost effective opening a food truck is compared to opening a brick and mortar. With the age of social media, you can make the argument that the idea of full service restaurants are actually going to continue to dwindle. They're never going to go away fully. People want to sit down in a restaurant. That's not going to go away at any point in time, but food trucks can prevail because we see it on social media. People are creating food truck parks. They're creating areas for communities to go and join together and have great food. Food trucks are going to music festivals, they're going to outdoor concerts, they're going to parks. Food trucks are becoming more prevalent in the age of social media because you can promote yourself outside of more than just one location. Instead of having to have a brick and mortar and drive all your customers to get in their cars, get in their vehicles, to drive to specifically your location, fight through traffic, get parking, and all this stuff on a daily basis, as a food truck, you have the versatility to park where you want, go to events, people come to you automatically, and you grow your social media off that. Obviously, there's so much more that goes into this, but high level, there's so much more versatility that comes with food trucks. And some companies are actually pivoting strongly towards this market. Cousin's Maine Lobster currently has 50 food trucks operating across 20 different states. Kona Ice is one that you're probably really familiar with. They have over 1,800 trucks in the United States. And some big brands are starting to invest more in food trucks over the last couple of years. Both Shake Shack and Whataburger have started to pursue this industry as well. Private equity and VC investments, they're starting to roll into companies like Roaming Hunger. Roaming Hunger offers services specifically for the food truck industry. Good Find functions as a marketplace and payment processor for businesses in the industry as well. They're backed by impressive past fundraising rounds. Tech's starting to pop up in the industry. So when tech's starting to come to the industry, you know that there is a market for this, and there's an increasing market because VC is not going to invest in markets that they don't think is going to make them 10, 15, 20x what their initial investments were. They're investing in this because they know it's going to grow. And between the reduced cost of entry for people looking to start food trucks, while reducing general overhead from high and continuously rising rent, labor, and interest, the food truck industry is poised to take off. So while traditional brick and mortar stores will never disappear, there's no way they ever will, but the flexibility and potential higher margins that a food truck can give you is giving restaurant entrepreneurs an opportunity to get into the industry at a much lower and much more convenient cost than it is to run a brick and mortar. And there's so much more. You're owning the truck, you're owning the equipment, you're owning all of this stuff. So at the end of the day, if you want to get out of it, you're still getting out of it at a debt less debt ratio than you would if you owned a brick and mortar. So what are your thoughts? Do you think food trucks are going to continue to grow rapidly? Do you think all of this is just whatever, not really true information? Do you think that from your city, what do you see? Are you seeing food trucks pop up? Are you seeing this same trend? So let me know in the comments below. I'd appreciate it. And thank you all for checking this video out.